Hi, my name is Stephan Pehrsson. I am the DOP on Black Mirror, USS Callister, Into Infinity, and Bête Noire. And this is the Go Creative show.
Hello and welcome to the Go Creative Show, a podcast for filmmakers. Today, my guest is Stephan Pehrsson, who is the director of photography and cinematographer for 2 episodes from this season of Black Mirror, USS Callister, Into Infinity, and Bête Noire. Stephan, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
First of all, the fact that USS Callister is back now for another, what was it, like feature? I think that was a 90-minute episode, right?
Yes.
Now, I know for a while there was talks of potentially doing a full series out of this that
Correct.
ended up being boiled down into this full-length episode. But I'd love to hear from you, like knowing, okay, this episode is back. It's season 7. How do you feel? How do you prep for it?
Well, I was very excited to be back, but like you said, it had a long sort of story. We've been around 7 years since the last one was made. So there was just all this talk, I kept hearing, oh, we're going to do an 8-part series, and oh, we might do a 6-part series. There was like half-hour episodes, and oh, what's this? And then suddenly it was a 4-part, 1 hour. Anyway, it kept developing. And sometimes you had to forget about it, and it was all about the cast we got the cast together. It was so close. And then it all disappeared again. The real trouble getting this cast together because everybody got, everybody blew up since we shot the first one. So getting all that talent back in that room was really tricky. But then finally this feature-length episode and, coming together, it happened. How do you prep? The great thing is work on the first one. That's what I did. So I knew how the spaceship worked. I knew how the world, is put together, and also it sort of meant that when we are in prep, we would sort of have quite a lot of discussions because we sort of felt a bit of ownership with this world. But we all thought, are these characters they were supposed to do this, or we all had our own sort of continuation story. So there was a bit of that going into it where you go, actually, I'm not sure that's right. Maybe it feels correct to go this way. So a lot of prep. We did that.
Well, it's good you mentioned that. I was actually interested in that in particular because the first version of this, or not even version, but the first part of this story was back in season 4, right?
Yes, correct.
So, and wildly successful. I mean, everybody loved that episode. So, like you said, you go into it now, coming at it, you're doing another one. You're doing basically the continuation of that story, and you must feel some ownership over this. And also the fact that everyone's blown up now as giant stars. Was that a challenge for you to go into this and try to continue having it be the essence of what it was back in season 4, but expanding it?
It was hard, absolutely. I mean, I think the pressure was more on that because the first one was so successful, we just didn't want to waste all that goodwill. We have all these people out there loving the show, and we could have made a complete dud, something that people just, oh, now I hate the first one, you just ruined it, so that the pressure was certainly on for us, and we all felt that in the beginning, we sort of kept sort of asking ourselves, why are we making this? Is there enough of a story here? Is this actually working? And we sort of felt like, in the development, we were sort of tweaking the ending a bit. We were tweaking things in the beginning. It was like, oh, that character would never do that. And then, we twisted things around. And then suddenly it was like, no, now it makes sense. And it sort of turned out to be this thing that I think sort of lives up to the original. And I think in some people's minds, it surpasses the first. I'm not sure about that. But I really love it. I think we got away with it at least.
It's the perfect complement to the season 4 episode. It really is just a fantastic continuation of it. I think you guys absolutely nailed it. I want to talk about the way that this thing looks, because obviously you're inspired by kind of the old Star Trek-y kind of vibe, just like it was in season 4. But there's some progression here. I mean, 7 years has gone by since you did the first one. And I'm curious from you, what changed for you? What color palette changes, cinematography choices? What were some of the ways that you enhanced it?
Well, a lot of things. I mean, technology has moved on. LEDs have got a lot better. Back when we made that originally, sky panels were still a novelty. It wasn't really, but we had 10 of them, but it was like, oh my God, they're so expensive. And do you really need, this is, we had to do it with LED tape, and we had to sort of build it, and they hadn't, for lighting nerds, we only had RGB for some of the LEDs, and what you need is RGBW. You need the red, blue, green color, but then you also need white in your LED. And now you can get RGBWW, so you have an extra white in there. It just means you get the colors much more correct. So anyway, that's a whole technical sidebar.
I'm interested in this now with the WW. Yeah. So when you first shot this, 8 years ago or so, whatever it was, those sky panels were RGB only. You weren't able to replicate perfect daylight, or
no, the sky panels were absolutely fine. There was no problem with the sky panels. It was all the tape. It was the tape. We put LED tape behind all the panels, and we had all these corridors we had to fill with lights originally, and which we had to do again, of course. And we were sort of thinking, we could use these little panel lights. We had all these different ideas to put in, but that idea turned out to be, it would cost 3 times. Just to have these light panels would cost 3 times our entire lighting budget, and that's including everything else we had to do. So we had to come up with a different idea quickly. And what we got was a special team in who was just specializing in LED tape. And we just got kilometers of this LED tape, and we just ran it behind all the light fixtures in the corridors, and then combined it with some other sort of cheaper units than sky panels.
Did you utilize the same technique this time around?
So this time around, very similar, but it was just that the technology had moved on, so much. So because there's certain areas on the original we had to compromise. We could only use RGB tape, and for me it ended up like the color. You can't get RGB color to be perfect white, and so you see it. There's a scene when she wakes up in their little booth, and in that sort of little booth, it's only RGB, but in the corridor is RGBW. And you can sort of see when she steps up and she looks out, it gets more green in the corridor. And that's sort of how we sort of fixed it in the grade. But actually, the problem actually came because we couldn't control the color well enough in the original. That's one tiny detail.
What other technologies changed over the years that you may have implemented this time around that you would have loved to maybe the last time?
Well, the other thing, the big thing that we changed, which came from VFX, was when we shot it originally, we had a big green screen outside our, what you call the bridge where they all sit and stare into space. That was a huge green screen, and you look into the green screen. But this time round, our VFX department said, we have, X amount of money for shots looking at this screen. It's going to cost a lot of money. And actually, for a quarter of the price, we can put up a video screen, which means we can do 70, maybe 80% of our shots for real in camera with this video screen displaying a star field or hyperspace. Or I was a bit skeptical at first, and I thought that sounds very complicated. Is that going to work? Are we not going to, is that going to mess up? Anyway, they were very confident. They said it's definitely going to work. We did a test for it, and then I just realized this is brilliant. So it's a bit like a volume kind of wall that just sits outside in space, and it just meant that everything's blended together. So when we turned up on the final set, when it was built, it was like you were actually in space. You were transported there. It was amazing, and we could, they could shoot off laser beams into it. They could, again, like the hyperspace could move, and you could sort of change the direction of where hyperspace was going to go, up or down or left or right. I mean, it was so brilliant, this setup, so brilliant, those video wall guys. So that was a huge upgrade this time around.
So you're basically saying that, like, when you're in that spaceship and you're looking out basically toward the, I guess, for lack of a better term, the windshield, and you're looking at the world out there, that was one screen when you did it maybe, for the first time, but this time you brought in an LED wall, basically creating like a little mini volume for yourself.
Absolutely.
And so what are a couple of things that, like, yes, you're in the space, you can really see the real world there, but are there any real technical benefits to having that wall versus putting it on green screen? Maybe reflections or
exactly that.
Color bleed, anything like that?
It's exactly the main issue you have if you have a big green screen, and also the way that we lit the green screen last time, it was very bright. So you end up having this green spill coming off the green screen. So people who sit close to the screen, they actually get green light on them, but also all our surfaces in that spaceship was metallic or they were shiny in some form, and all that reflects the green. So from a VFX point of view, they're just looking at this thing and all this stuff they have to clean up. They have to clean up the hole and around the hair of the people, but then they also have to, every single reflection you see, they have to sort of get rid of that, and it's quite complicated and boring process for them, and it costs a lot of money. So getting it in camera just helps them immensely, but actually it helps everyone. It helps the artist. It helps, it helps me, that you can just see everything working for real in the real space. So no, it was a huge benefit to everyone. And also we had this sequence at the end, for instance, where Nanette, we sort of find out that all the other crew members had ended up inside Nanette's head. And we sort of needed a sequence where they suddenly realize, we're looking out through her eyes. And what we actually were able to do was then we shot a shot of like a POV shot in this hospital bed of her waking up. And then we would just play it back on the video screen. So when they sat in there and, were acting, they were actually watching the POV of Nanette moving around, and they could sort of react to all the bumps and pushes and stuff that she was doing on that screen. So it was, super helpful.
One of the things that I think is so interesting about the USS Callister episode and episodes is that you're constantly bouncing back and forth between this like alternate reality and then the real world. There's like a groundedness in the real world and this super colorful, wild, kind of crazy, touches of vintage kind of looking stuff in this hyper reality world. How do you as a cinematographer, over the course of the entire, feature length episode, how are you maintaining consistency so it feels like one cohesive piece visually?
Well, I think it's just, you have very clever people around you, who sort of helps you with, first of all, it's production design. You have incredible production design who sort of helps you map out and create all these worlds. First of all, create the spaceship. And then between production design and location department, you find these amazing locations that you can turn into alien worlds. For the consistency, I mean, it's just all in, you set up a look, you say, this is a snow world, it's going to be overcast, it's going to have, lots of, particles flying in the air. And then you just make sure you do that for every setup, and when you move to a forest planet, jungle planet of some sort, you work out, okay, this needs to have strong sunlight. And then you are sort of forced to just wait around until the sun comes back, whenever it goes down a cloud, you go back to that. I mean, that's sort of more the nitty gritty of it, but a lot of it is sort of you also put a lot on it. You give it a color grading in camera when you're shooting. So it already sort of builds a little look before you get to the grade. So I think in your head you're already building towards certain colors and certain consistencies. So it's sort of you can feel it on screen if it doesn't right or it suddenly gets too blue or too red. You can adjust your light, so you can adjust your your settings, so you can keep the same consistency all the way through.
Is it kind of fun for you to work on more grounded scenes? Like I don't know if grounded is the right word, but I guess more natural, realistic scenes when they're not in the game throughout this episode. Is that kind of like a fun thing for you to play around with, knowing that you have all that other stuff going on?
Oh, sure, but I love the mixture. I love that we have all these different areas to go to. So and also that was sort of the hardest thing. First time round was setting up all these in-game mode, out-of-game mode, future mode, 60s mode, but it was all the same set. You had to do it all with lighting and color grading, but we sort of set that up already. Now we've just taken it to the next step. We're coming out of the 60s. Now we're in the J.J. Abrams, for lack of a better word, sort of style of Star Trek. We were sort of in the infinity, in the future, so it was just like sort of keeping consistency within that. Sorry, I lost my thread again. I keep doing that. Sorry.
I can feel your enthusiasm about the project as you talk, which is great.
Sure.
Because you know, a lot of times people come on here, it's been a long time since they shot it. Maybe the memories aren't right in their mind. And you seem to have this stuff ready to go and still really excited about it. So like,
oh, absolutely.
So, okay, you did the first one. It's a major success. You go to the second one. Was there something that you said like, okay, if we're going to do this again, I absolutely need this, or I absolutely want to do that? Was there something that you said was, we've got to do it this way, we have to do this thing? Maybe you didn't get to do it the first time and you want to now? Just curious.
Yeah, I not that I can remember. There's nothing particular. I mean, I was very excited about creating more different alien worlds this time around. You know, that was just something that excited me, but there was nothing, you know, I just wanted to live up to the original. I think that was sort of our main aim, was just a bit like when we made the first one, our big aim was just don't mess this up, you know, because the pressure was on from the beginning. You know, we didn't know, we came out of me and Toby, the director, you know, we came off Doctor Who. We'd done Doctor Who before, and we did another sort of sci-fi fantasy thing called Jonathan Strange to Mr. Norrell, but we hadn't really proved ourselves on a level like Black Mirror. So we were just sort of constantly just gearing each other up, going, look, don't mess this up, you know, we have to get this right. We have to, you know, we knew we had to elevate ourselves to get into the level. So coming back again, it was the same thing. We just, you know, now we have to hit that bar and hopefully exceed it.
Well, I certainly think you did. Let's talk about the camera package that you chose for USS Callister.
So first time round, this is back in the 17. We were only allowed to shoot on red camera, and it had to be master anamorphic lenses. But that was because it was what's it called? The VFX department at the time, they did not like vintage lenses. You know, we really wanted to shoot on Panavision, you know, something with big blue flares and all that kind of stuff, exciting. But the VFX department said we can't track those lenses. But actually, so this is one thing I did then get to do this time round. We sort of said, can we shoot on vintage lenses for this new episode? And the VFX department this time said, yes, you can. It's possible. All they need to do.
You must have been so excited.
Yeah, exactly that. So we, in the previous episode, we had one scene. The last scene of the episode is like we got to use these special Toyo anamorphic lenses, which are, you know, very exciting. You know, looks amazing, but they're sort of falling apart. You know, it looks like someone, I don't know, like Doc Brown built them in his little workshop. You know, they're sort of just this cobbled together pieces of metal, and so we just knew we couldn't use that for the whole look, but it did look amazing for that one sequence. But this time around, we then went to Panavision. Panavision, you know, does the best anamorphic lenses. You know, from Spielberg and JJ and, you know, all those people, they use Panavision, and they use the B series and C series anamorphic, which look amazing. They now also made this T series, which is sort of a modern version of the same sort of old lenses that they had in the 70s, but it works much better. You know, it's really got nice sort of mechanics in it. You know, it's got good close focus, so you can get people sort of a bit closer to the lens than you would with the old style lenses. So that's what we shot with, T series anamorphic from Panavision, and I thought they, you know, look great. You know, they really have that sort of you know, great bend, the nice kind of vignetting that you want, and then the flare. You know, we were constantly trying to sort of put torches into the front of the lens and just get those blue flares, you know, like that you see in these big event movies, especially event movies by J.J. Abrams.
When I had asked you what were some of the differences, the visual differences from the first episode to the second, one of the things I noticed was that the close-ups were closer. It felt more intimate when you got really close to people. And it's interesting to hear that that was just simply a result of being able to use those vintage anamorphics and get in even deeper into the frame, because that was something that I noticed.
Absolutely, I think that's very true. You know, I mean, the master anamorphics, I think it is more like you have to be 4 foot away before they sort of resolve, and just getting that 2 foot closer does make a huge difference. Also, I think maybe Toby Haynes, who directed this episode, you know, his style has developed in the meantime, and he always sort of, when he loves a wide lens sort of close to people, and especially if it can spin around, you know, then he gets very excited.
What was your favorite thing to shoot in this episode? Was it the action scenes? Was it the more dramatic single, dialogue scenes? What really got you going?
I think it was anything with Jimmy Simpson being funny, but I think I really loved that stuff that we did on his planet. You know, when we see him in his caveman outfit for the first time. I mean, it was just hilarious. Like every shot we did with him just made us all laugh, and he was just so game. It was incredible. You know, we put him in, you know, like the tiniest, skimpiest outfit, you know, and he was just like, yeah, and you have to eat this octopus with blue blood coming out of it. Yeah, go for it. You know, it was just all in, and we had a lot of fun there for sure.
You know, the episode has a little bit of a vintage flair to it, obviously based on what it's inspired by. Did you do any kind of like in-camera special effects that you're particularly proud of? I know there's a lot of visual effects on the whole, but was there any in-camera work that you thought was just really fun and interesting?
There was quite a few little bits. I mean, unfortunately, it didn't work out as well as we'd hoped, but we did try. So there's a tiny bit where when she wakes up in her hospital bed and we follow her into the bathroom, we wanted to sort of pan around with her into the bathroom and then pan in and then not see the camera. And what we did was we built a mirror set. So we built the bathroom twice. So we built an extra bathroom so we could come in from the other side and have a double, go over the shoulder of a double, and then she would walk in the other side, and we would meet her in the middle. And we did do that. We did do that shot, but because it's so, we just used parts of it. You sort of missed the trick. I'd like to just have a bit more on the beginning of it, to really sort of get the feeling like, oh wow, where is the camera? Or maybe sort of spinning around it a bit or something. But yeah, anyway, that was a fun in camera bit that we did. Did we do anything else? I mean, of course, with the doubles, we were constantly just using doubles and shooting over shoulders, you know, and then every now and again for a big wide shot, we would then get our motion control camera out to blend, sort of get all 10 people in the same scene.
And those double scenes were so slick too. Like I can imagine that to make them look so effortless must be incredibly effortful to get them to be so perfect.
Absolutely, no, it took forever. We shot on a bit of kit called the Techno Dolly, which is it's getting a bit old now. You know, it's basically a telescopic crane with a remote head, but you can record a move and then it will sort of play back the move again, like a motion control camera would. But the great thing about the Techno Dolly is instead of sort of programming it all from a computer and telling the arm where to go, you can actually hold the head and you sort of just walk with the head and hold it, because we wanted it to sort of feel handheld. So we sort of just would walk with the head and sort of give it that sort of handheld feel and walk around with them. So in this wide shot, and then we let go, and then they would be able to play this handheld move back. And that's how we got those sort of handheldy feeling wide shots. But technically it's very difficult because you shoot him first with the caveman and Nanette in one of her, I can't remember which outfit we started her in, and you know it takes 4 hours to get into caveman outfit and then get him out of caveman and into a spacesuit for Jimmy. That's 2 hours, you know. So we had to sort of shoot all our different angles, you know, and record them all and, you know, get them all sort of lined up and then get them changed, then come back and then shoot the plates for all these three things. But the brilliant thing about the Techno Dolly is it's not just one move record, you can record 5 moves. So you can shoot the close-up and a wide shot and a single and something else. And then you just have to play them all back and get the plates with the characters in the other places later on.
I want to make sure I'm understanding this. You're saying with the Techno Dolly, you were able to hand hold your shots, and then what are you taking? Yes. Are you taking that? I guess, how are you replicating it? Is it attached to the arm and you're hand holding with it still? Okay.
So you're hand holding the head and the head sits on the arm, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then someone is zooming the arm in and out so you get the right angle. But then I'm just manipulating the head manually, sort of with my arms and hands, which gives it that sort of handheld feeling.
I see.
You know, and so when you then let go and it plays back, it sort of looks like it's just moving handheld in space, but it's fully repeatable.
I have experience with the robotic arms, but never with the ability to have a handheld, a recorded handheld motion. It's always like programmed.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a viable option, but I guess I do now, which is why we all learn things on these shows.
Try the Techno Dolly next time. It's really good. I mean, there's you sort of see it if you move a quick move. You can probably see it won't be as precise as a proper motion control device, but it was close enough that we certainly could use it for our purposes. The other complicated bit about having a repeatable move in a spaceship is the things that you don't think about, because everything has to repeat when you are shooting that kind of stuff. Of course you have the actors and characters, but we had like every single thing in the background of this spaceship was an animation. We had all these things sort of moving in the background. Every video screen was running some kind of loop. But if any of those are out of sync by even just like a couple of frames, you will be able to tell that the shot doesn't sync up anymore. So we had to make sure that everything was in sync and all started at the same point. The other thing you have to consider whenever you're shooting these kind of things is the sound, because you are obviously recording one half of the people, but then when you play it back, you only want to hear the people that are not there. And so you have to edit your takes. So while they go out and they change the costumes, you edit the takes for sound and take the sound out at the right bits. And all that stuff is very complicated and certainly cost us a lot of problems.
My God, I wasn't even thinking about the animation and the screens in the background. I mean,
yes,
there must have been so many dead takes where you're like, oh my God, that screen's on the wrong frame. I mean, how can it not happen? There's so many things that could go wrong.
No, so many things could go wrong, exactly. But that's also why what it was just weeks and weeks of preparation, just make sure that everything could sync up and it all would sync up to the same beep point, which is one frame on the camera, but everything has to start at that point and then it will all flow. But getting everything to do that was very complicated.
Oh my God, I can imagine. There must have been a moment through that where you were like, do we have to do this as a double? Is there any way to not do this? I just want it to end.
I know, exactly that. And the director was looking at me a lot that day. He was just like, are you sure, Stefan, this is the only way we could do it? Yes, I'm sure it is. And I think he was happy in the end. But during the day, he was giving me evils. Yeah.
Oh, you must have had producers looking at their watch, holding an iPad, freaking out. Seconds are going by. Oh my God, that's the pressure of that must have been the worst. How do you stay calm and cool in those moments? Like, not specifically even this moment, but just in general. I mean, filmmaking is such a high pressure career when every second literally is thousands of dollars. How do you stay calm?
How do you do it? I mean, I sort of got to a point now where I sort of feel like I can't move any faster. So I feel like if it's a problem, any problem that that they're waiting for any kind of lighting, I sort of feel they got the wrong DP. So I'm sort of thinking, well, this is as fast as I can move. So, and this is what, I think I'm probably, one of the fastest people around anyway, without blowing my trumpet too much. So I believe that whenever we're doing a setup, if there's any kind of pressure, I know we can't go any faster. This is the speed limit. I am the speed limit. And then that sort of, I don't know, that gives me confidence to go, we just have to wait until this is done. And then you are ready when you are when you are ready, but you try to be ahead with as many things you can. You try to think ahead and make sure that if there's anything you can do ready for the next camera position or for the next day, you line up as much as you can, and that gives you sort of the confidence that you've done everything you can, and then you just have to let people suffer.
When you were a new DP just starting out, kind of breaking into your career, did you also sort of had that mindset where it's just, you can only do what you can do?
No, not at all. I always felt the pressure. I still feel the pressure. It's true. You sort of, whenever you feel like there's, that there's too much to do and there might not be a way to finish it all in the day. I do feel that pressure, and I do try to sort of think sort of clever solutions to get it finished. But somehow and especially in the beginning of my career, I don't know. I think I believed in myself to the extent that I I was moving as fast as I could, and I was doing the best I could. And then if that wasn't good enough, then I just had to go on and do something else. But luckily, that was never the case.
Yeah, I think it's almost like when you're young and new, and people are pressuring you to get things done quick or whatever, you think maybe I'm doing something wrong because you don't have the years to know that you're actually doing it right. This is just how long it takes.
Yeah.
It's like the further you go in your career, you start getting more confident. And this is probably, I'm sure everybody in any job can relate to that idea. But
yeah,
you know, when you're young and you're hungry and you're hustling and you're worried and you're nervous, like it could really eat away at you.
Absolutely. No, I've had sleepless nights, and sort of riddled with anxiety, and and some sort of going to the bathroom and just like just having to be all knotted up inside, and you absolutely you feel the pressure, but then I always sort of try to sort of outwards sort of display a level of confidence that I absolutely know what I'm doing, and then I'll just have the quiet moment to myself, and usually that sort of confidence gets me through, and everybody looks at you and think, oh, this guy knows what he's doing, even though I sometimes don't. But if you have enough direction, then people go with you. What
do you consider your first big break into the industry?
First big break. I mean, there were so many. It was just little tiny gaps, kind of thing. Getting out of film school, I got hired on a soap opera, sort of 6 months into, and everybody else in my year, they were still just struggling with short films here and there. So getting that first thing was a brilliant thing. I think getting Doctor Who felt like a big thing at the time, working on Doctor Who. Black Mirror, certainly another sort of big step up. And then more recently, when I got a chance to work on Wednesday, for Netflix, with the Wednesday Addams, again, you sort of get these sort of tiny little moves every now and again, So I don't think there was ever one thing. You sort of feel like there's a couple of years where it's the same, and then suddenly there's, you move one step ahead, So yeah, there's been a few.
I love that. I love that you're still considering jobs at your level. You're still considering jobs like a big break. I mean, it's a testament to how much you enjoy the work that you do. It's fun. It's exciting. It's interesting. And I just love talking to people that love the work that they do. It's great in any field, but particularly in filmmaking. It's awesome. I want to switch gears for our last few minutes here and talk about Bête Noire, which deservingly of an entire episode in and of itself on Go Creative Show, but we only have a few minutes to talk about it.
Sure, no worries.
But I'd love to just kind of maybe we can start with sort of the visual inspiration for it. How do you maybe describe the look of this particular episode?
It was much more sort of, I don't know, straightforward. It was an office. It's sort of an office, not a sitcom. It's sort of an office drama, office set drama, and it's very pastel-y. It's got lots of color in it. We sort of didn't shy well. We sort of thought it was funny to have all these dark ideas, but everybody's just dressing in pinks and yellows and pastels and stuff, But underneath is just like life or death, and. One thing, one of our sort of big approaches or things that I was sort of discovering it while we started shooting, was we sort of felt like sort of sitting back on a longer lens on a dolly and then zooming in. Maybe you don't feel the zoom so much in the final show, but we were doing that a lot. Everything was shot on zoom lenses, and we just sat back and we just push in, or we sit behind a window and we sort of look at them over there, and that sort of feeling of just observing them and seeing them all in this sort of weird sort of fishbowl of an office felt like the right approach, and we really I think that's how we sort of connected to the characters. And of course, as things go more and more mad, and Maria sort of just is sort of questioning her own sanity, we would sort of move a bit closer, and we get a bit more on the shoulder and sort of be handheld with her as she sort of runs up to the Verity's house at the end and get into her bedroom and all that kind of stuff. So there was a bit of a development in the story, but yeah, it was very much sort of observing and zooms, and then that sort of more closer connection by the end.
It's so important in this episode to to as you're watching it as a viewer, to accept it as reality. Like you have to in order for the episode to work. So when you're watching it, it all feels right. Like everything makes sense. It looks the way that it should. It feels good to watch. It's comfortable. But then paranoia sets in, and the show really does have a wild arc for our main character where she becomes more and more and more paranoid as it goes. And you gave us a little bit of an insight into how you did that just now, but can you dive just a little deeper, maybe talk about some lighting choices or camera choices that supported this idea of paranoia and dread in our main character?
I think a lot of it, again, observing, we always was just revealing things at the right time, maybe that's also like an editing thing, but certainly with our cameras, we were sort of trying to just, make sure that we didn't want to give people the idea straight away. So for instance, she has this little pendant around her neck, which is the one that she uses whenever she changes reality, Verity does. And, we wanted to make sure we revealed it just at the right point, so there's a scene in the office, when it's just a moment when she's sort of going, oh, what's going on here? It was just finding that sort of a little tilt down just at the right time, just seeing that and seeing her hand on it and back up. And as soon as
oh, look, you gave me balloons somehow. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
How do you do that?
We just celebrated something.
So it was just more, it was about the little camera move, and when Verity drinks the milk, just pushing in on her face, and I think sort of that, just tightening up on that complete absurd situation of her, drinking almond milk, but we just watched the scene not knowing anything. It makes no sense, but in the context, it's the most horrific, crazy thing you've ever seen. I love that moment. But it was just about sort of pushing in on their faces and feeling the paranoia in that way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially a lot of young filmmakers, get into it with horror films first. It's documentaries and horror films, music videos, of course, but it seems like horror is a good genre to, you can make a little budget turn into something really great if you can scare people. And I think there's a lot of discussion around the idea of how do you make things scary? How do you make things paranoid? How do you make watch people kind of fall apart on camera? And I think a lot of it, performance, of course, but a lot of it has to do with lighting and lens choices. So it was interesting to see you explore that in this episode.
Yeah, well, thank you. I don't think, obviously we got dark by the end, but I don't think we were trying to do anything sort of out of the ordinary. I wasn't lighting it in any particular, sort of dramatic or dark way. We were sort of just presenting it as it is. And then I think the paranoia just comes from the situation and also questioning your own sanity, because as you're watching it as an audience member, you're going, that's not what happened. That this is the truth, and then suddenly you're seeing, you're being told that that's not the truth, and you're going, no, there's probably even an instinct for some people to rewind, and go back and double check, what did it say that one thing I don't think that it's happened, but what we really wanted to do, because there's a whole thing about Bernie's and Barney's chicken. Where someone says, no, it's definitely Bernie's. No, it's Barney's. Yeah. And we liked the idea because we ended up doing two versions of that scene. So the scene where she says, it's Bernie's, but no, it was Barney's. And then there's another version of the scene where she says it's Barney's, but no, it's actually Bernie's. And we shot both of those. And if you go to Netflix and you watch it again, you might get a different version. You might get the Barney's. But what we really wanted to do was that you watch the Barney's version kind of thing, and then you rewind back, and then you watch it again. It's suddenly the other version you see. So you sort of think, oh,
way.
Maybe my brain is messing up. Maybe I did read the wrong thing. I'm sure it said Barney's before. That's what we were really hoping to do, but I'm not sure that the Netflix boffins could do that on the rewind button, you get a different file. So, but that would have been fun though.
Oh my God, that would have been awesome. Do you know for sure that isn't happening, or I
think people just get different versions. So I've seen it on Twitter, where people go, Oh, I had the weirdest argument with my wife. She said it was Bernie's, and I said it was Barney's, and they just got two different versions. They watched two different versions, so that has definitely happened.
That is awesome. Oh, I love that. I'm gonna have to dig into that now. I want to play it again and see which one I get.
Exactly.
Now I'm starting to wonder which one did I get. I think I got the Bernie's version. I don't know.
Bernie's version. I think that's what we shot first. Bernie's version, where she said, no, but it's just, yeah. So it says Bernie's on the cap when you first see it, and it turns into Barney's. I think that was the original scripted version, but then we did the other version as well.
Oh my God. You're getting me all twisted up in my mind, Stefan. How dare you? Well, your work is just fantastic. I mean, on these two episodes, of course, but even beyond that, all your entire portfolio of work is just amazing. And I'm just so glad that you're out there doing your thing and excited about this, this life, this career, filmmaking. It's awesome. Especially at a time people are very afraid of AI. They're very afraid of things kind of taking these jobs away, and the creative industry's a little, who knows where it's going. So to see people out there so enthusiastic and so passionate about it is just refreshing, and I love it.
Thank you so much. But I love it, and I think, I don't know, that's something that AI can't repeat. I think there's some level of creativity that comes from a human being that you'll never be able to replicate. I think it's going to be an incredible assistant to us. The way that it works, that you can change people's voice, or you can there's all these things that it can help with. But I think that the original artistic element that a human being brings, I don't think that will ever be duplicated.
Well said. Well, thank you for coming on the Go Creative Show. We really appreciate it. Where can people go to learn more about you? Are there any social handles you want to promote?
Well, you can. I am on Instagram. I don't post very much. I have a website, but you'll just see some clips from my films. I think you should just go on Netflix or go on Paramount Plus and watch one of those. That's where you're going to have the most fun, I think.
I love it. Check out the work. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on, and we'll have to have you back for your next project.